Welcome to Titan Upload Live. So glad you could be here. Join us tonight and talk Tennessee Titans. It's been a while. It's been a while here on Titan Upload. So hopefully you guys are doing great. Today was one of those days where Julio Jones appears in the news and Titan fans go insane. But I feel I'm going to go ahead and start off. So again, thanks for being here. Don't forget to tighten up that like button. You guys know me. You know, if I'm going to come up with a video, I'm going to put some work behind it. I'm going to put some research behind it, all right? And I'm going to put some stuff out there that's relevant. I just don't jump to conclusions, Matt, and throw a bunch of crap out there and just to get views. And so when you guys say that this is clickbait and stuff, shame on you guys, man. You guys know me better than that. We got our own issues here in Tennessee. Who's going to play receiver? Who's going to play tight end? Oh my goodness, the middle linebacker is going to show up this year, and Evans. I mean, we got our own stuff to deal with than to worry about other things going on. So again, thanks for being here. Again, this Julio Jones thing will not die. A lot of it, Adam says Debo runs a 6.9. I think the big deal with the Titans coming forward with this Julio Jones, there's a couple things. Number one, you keep saying cap space. You're right. The Titans don't have hardly anything. It's like $3.9 million. It's not much, but they have not restructured one stinking contract. They can restructure across the board, starting with Tannehill. Paul Kaharski, I was gonna go on a rant about Paul Kaharski and Tajay Sharp, but I won't. But I'll say this about Paul Kaharski. Like, he does know his stuff. You know what I mean? He did show up on Mr. Titan show. So shout out again to Mr. Titan if he's here, but he did show up to Mr. Titan show to actually talk to him, and I thought that was cool. But the point is, Paul Kaharski has said the Titans can bring up and bring in some of this cap space in a heartbeat with restructuring. And you know what? If you're sold on Ryan Tannehill for the rest of his contract, there's no harm with restructuring to save yourself some money because you're going to be locked into him anyways. The only way you wouldn't restructure Lewan, Tannehill, and Derrick Henry is if you feel like you want out earlier than expected. And right now, this playoff, this Super Bowl window, I know like the media won't acknowledge that as far as the national media. I've seen some power rankings lately. I'm not very impressed with that situation, but it is what it is. We know that we don't get much respect. I'm just happy we got, our 3 primetime games. But when you look at the Titans, and you look at the situation that presents itself, you could restructure with Tannehill, save yourself a bunch of million, and I don't even think you need to restructure Lewan and Henry, all 3 of them together, but Paul Kaharski said you can roughly get about $20 million. So cap space, if the Titans want him, it's not going to be the deal. Now, the Titans aren't scared to go out and get a splash. The Titans aren't scared to go out and try to do something if it makes sense for the team. I don't anticipate... So, I mean, if this is where you're going and you want to click off now, that's fine. But I do not anticipate the Titans are going to overplay this. I think if it makes sense and, the draft capital compensation, whatever, it makes sense to the Titans and there's not a bunch of other teams competing with them, I think the Titans might actually do this. And I've been on the fence about this. Because I didn't know if I really wanted to believe it or not. And then when you dive in and actually look at Julio Jones, and he's a little bit older, we know he's about 32. And then I'm going to go through the roster with you for wide receiver. I mean, there is a lot of hesitation on my part. I know a lot of you are like all in on Dez, and congratulations. I got my sound effects. Congratulations to you guys. I'm honestly not mocking you. I'm just being serious. If you're sold on Dez already after a couple practices on rookie minicamp, good for you. But all I'm saying is I'm going to take my time on him and I'm going to be cautiously optimistic because, ESPN has him penciled in as the 3 already. I don't know. I don't know what Cam Batson has to say about that. But when we look, Dez better work out. And I heard a lot about Josh Reynolds. And I've come around on him a little bit. But still, if you think he's a for sure thing at number 2, I don't think you can say that. Just like I can't get on you for saying these comments about Dez working out and Reynolds being a great number 2. you can't get on me for being not being optimistic right away and being a little bit cautious on that either. We got to see how this thing plays out. But I think we can all agree on this. If this doesn't work at number 2 and it doesn't work at number 3, we might be in some serious trouble wide receiver wise. And I'm not even mentioning tight end. I'm glad that Paul Kaharski, PK, does agree with me on Ferkser. I mean, if you don't believe what I'm saying on Ferkser, I know some of you get upset about that. The blocking is a big concern against the Chiefs. I think the Browns are going to be really good this year, but I want to be up against them. So if you could give me a situation right now that you're making it, I mean, if you look at the offense, let's just do it now. Let's get right into it. And we don't need to spend 20 minutes, right? Or we already spent 20 minutes. My bad. 120 of you in the house. Don't forget to tighten up that like button. Hopefully today's the day we'll go over 6,900. Right now we're about 6,890 something. So we're about 10 away. So if you haven't subscribed yet, we'd love to have you. We're approaching 7,000. Bring the Jude's podcast is just tearing it up. They flew by me over the week. But shout out to them. They're doing really, really well. And man, I can't keep up with them. But they're producing content 2-3 times a day. I mean, those guys are just insane, but shout out to them, even though they're Colts fans. So this is where we got Titans wide receivers. And I got the guys in red, which are locks. They're going to be on the team. They're definitely going to be on the team. So A.J. Brown, we know he's going to be your 1. Josh Reynolds will be your 2. And I think there is a discussion to be had between who's going to be number 3 at the beginning. But you would think Fitzpatrick, because it's not that he's a high draft pick. I mean, he's in the 4th round, but he's really the only receiver that was drafted. And they actually traded up for him, so they like something with him. Now, I would have went a different direction, but I'm not the GM, and we trust in John Robinson, so that's the only relevant thing here. But I would think Cam Batson and Dez are going to fight that thing out, and I think eventually they're going to want Dez to be the 3. But, again, when it comes to rookies and injuries and some of these things, they don't always transpire, and that's my point, and that's what I'm going to stick on here in a minute, because if tradition holds us well here, Corey Davis first year gets hurt, A.J. Brown got hurt in his first year, a lot of these rookies get hurt. Christian Fulton last year got hurt. Isaiah Wilson never got on the field. I just had to get him in there. I don't know. But if you think about like rookies that are drafted relatively high, a lot of times these guys pull a hamstring early, and then all of a sudden, now they're missing 2-3 games. Evans is another one. Remember when Evans was a rookie? He didn't get out there for a while. So my point is this: if that happens to Fitzpatrick, then now all of a sudden everybody bumps up. I mean, who on this roster other than A.J. Brown and maybe I'll give you Reynolds, are you afraid of? There's nobody on this roster that you'd be afraid of. So when you look at it from that point, Julio Jones, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I think it's something the Titans should strongly consider. Now, you guys can get in the debate if you really think of what you're giving up. Now, I'm not saying go mortgage the future and like do all these, I don't know, these huge picks, like couple first rounders and that kind of stuff. Be smart with it, but if you can get them, especially for a player that you don't really have confidence in and maybe a pick or something like that, then do it. Restructure somebody. Again, I understand your points. You don't want to restructure too many guys and be in cap situation going forward, but you're going to have Ryan Tannehill on your roster in the next couple of years. You're going to have Derrick Henry. You're going to have Lewan, it seems. I know not everybody loves Lewan, but you're going to have these guys on the roster. So you're not going to be able to get out of the situation. Yes, the cap will go up a little bit, we know. But after year 2, year 3, I believe 2023, cap's supposed to go up anyways. Like a pretty decent jump. It's just the next couple years are going to be rough. So you got to put that in perspective too. But those are my locks. So again, when you look at the receiver situation, your argument may be this. Oh, well, we got Derrick Henry and A.J. Brown. How much does a second receiver? You don't fall in that trap. So many people are falling in that trap. And I'm telling you, Corey Davis has been getting a lot of hate this week. He looks very different in green. I will say that. It's cool to see him next to Elijah Moore because so many of you loved Elijah Moore and those two being teammates. I'm actually excited to see what that's going to look like in New York, and we'll get to see it firsthand. What week do we play the Jets? Look at that, week 4. So we'll get to see him pretty early when we go to New York. But when you think of it, again, Corey Davis, almost 1,000 yards with a 2,000-yard rusher and another 1,000-yard receiver. And you're just going to take him out of the equation, and everybody's like, yeah, whatever, he could only block. A couple receivers could fill that role. Maybe you think Cam, Batson, and Fitzpatrick could come close combined to what Corey did produce. But again, when we're looking at Julio Jones here, because that's the purpose of this video, there's not any for sure things on this roster. Now, you're probably going to keep 6. Special teams is important. I think Westbrook is probably right now the one to beat out. I mean, he would definitely be the one that would make the list as of right now. They really like him. When the media told you how bad he was last year and how he couldn't catch, he still was on the roster. He made the team. He shocked everybody. The media couldn't believe it. They were at training camp. They seen him. He couldn't catch. But they also told you how great Raymond was, and you see how that worked out. But when you look at Westbrook, he did things on special teams that I think we could all acknowledge are pretty good. He caught a very, a high stressful situation, very clutch, from Logan Woodside. I mean, on that fake punt. I mean, so he's done some good things, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. All right, so then you got the other guys on the list. So let's look at what Julio Jones could possibly offer you, right? Because isn't it about Julio and what Julio's going to do and all that kind of stuff? So with that being said, when we look at the stats, which is kind of interesting, Julio Jones in 2020, a lot of people are saying, well, it's a situation with Julio Jones and he's getting older and he's starting to show. Well, he only played 9 games and he still had 771 yards. So this is not a knock on Corey Davis because I love Corey Davis. But Corey Davis did miss a few games last year, but still never did get 1,000 yards. Julio Jones almost got 1,000 yards in 9 games. So he's definitely, you focus on touchdowns, I get it. But when you're talking about production, 51 receptions, 771 yards, we're hoping Reynolds can do a little bit more than this year. We're hoping for that. So Julio Jones can get it done in 9 games. 2019, 99 receptions, almost 1,400 yards, 6 touchdowns in 15 games. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Almost 100 receptions in 2019. So when you get a fully healthy Julio Jones, which I know he was in 2020, and he still missed 1 game in 2019, Julio Jones will be able to be a for sure production guy alongside A.J. Brown. He just will be. And if you can get him cheap and you can find a way to work him in the salary cap and restructure, I'm telling you, Julio Jones, maybe you can. John Robinson's really good with maneuvering. We saw what he did with DeMarco Murray. You know what he did with that contract. He's done some really good things over the years as far as, finding ways to the Tannehill situation and all that other stuff. My goodness. So, again, career receptions, almost 13,000 yards, 60 touchdowns. And I'll give you a little nugget here, which is actually a good one, then we'll move on. Julio Jones in 10 seasons has only had 3 years where he did not reach 1,000 yards. That's 30% of his career. He didn't reach 1,000 yards. That's telling you 70%, 7 out of 10 years, 70%, he reaches out for over 1,000 yards. I mean, we're talking 1,600, 1,400, not just like 1,003. So I really feel, and maybe it's just me, but the more and more I look into the situation with A.J. Brown, with Derrick Henry, again, tight end's a question mark. It just is. Like, I get it. Fertzer's really good on third down, and I love that about him. But he played 374 snaps last year. Jonnu Smith was the one that had to stay home and block. Until we can figure out that situation, I know that for sure. How much can the cap go up next year? The cap can go up about, I saw $2 or $3 million. they're really doing it where it should have went lower this year, Oiler Titan, but they borrowed against next year, and it's going to take a little bit of time to weasel out. So just to throw that out there. Mars says we need to sign Larry Fitzgerald, Golden Tate. Those would be cheap options. I just don't see Larry Fitzgerald, if he's not coming back with the Cardinals, I just don't see him coming back at all unless he goes to like the Buccaneers or something like that to join his former coach and maybe go to another Super Bowl. Man, a lot of stuff to throw at you. I do have the Vegas things, so I wanted to get to those before we definitely head out of here. 28 minutes in, get to your comments. There's Chad. So let's kind of go down here. Delaney Walker has come up. I know I would give him a chance, but the question would be, would he come back to Tennessee? It wasn't exactly a smooth leaving. It was pretty rocky when he left. Julio can be productive if he stays healthy and on the field. Totally agree. Breaking news, Julio Jones turns down the Titans. He couldn't pass the physical, says Don. Oh, that would be our luck too, right? That would be our luck. La La Land, no disrespect. Tyler says, that's true Titan upload. I want him bad. If you can get him for the cheap, that's the question. If you can get him for the cheap, I still think the Baltimore Ravens, the media, frustrating, but the media, national media now is just all pushing Julio Jones to the Ravens or to the Chiefs. I mean, that's what they want to see. They don't want to see him in Nashville. They don't want to see him anywhere near us, which is interesting. So be careful when you're watching, NFL Network, although we're kind of okay on there. But if you're watching ESPN or some of these other shows, just to throw that out there, just be cautious. I think cautious is the word of the day. E.T., he's been getting hurt. I don't feel he's 100%. Jay says the problem is Julio isn't next season. Season after, you'll still have to pay Landry and Brown. That's a very good point. My hope is that, Jay, I guess my point is I'm hoping that John Robinson would be able to maneuver this where maybe he gives up a little bit more compensation if the Falcons maybe eat up a little bit more of whether I don't know how much is left on his deal as far as signing bonuses and stuff like that goes, but hopefully they'll be able to figure it out. Don says he's damaged goods. CJ in the house, what's going on? CJ Dale says Julio is a must. We want to talk Super Bowl. Unknown 13, don't sleep on Reynolds. He's gonna get. I hope you're right, Unknown 13. I hope you're right. And there's no disrespect from this end. I'm not gonna just sell out and make it a guarantee. I was going through my list, and this has nothing to do with Reynolds. This is more for Dez Fitzpatrick, but I was going through my list of all these former Titan wide receivers that we got very high and emotionally invested with, and we were told how great they were doing at camps and stuff like that, and then they never amounted to anything, Paul Williams from Fresno State. I think we drafted him in the third round back in 2009, something like that. We were very optimistic with him. Lavelle Hawkins. I think he's out of Cal. I could be wrong about that one. Obviously, Taywan Taylor just signed with the Houston Texans, but how many chances did he get? And we kept hearing over and over and over when we wanted. Nothing against him. I just didn't really see it. And a lot of us didn't see it, but we kept being told, hey, he's going to turn the corner. He's going to do this, do that. And then when he had a decent game, people would get on you and say how great he is. And then but no, he was way too up and down, too inconsistent. He never worked out. Dorial Green-Beckham, thought maybe he might be the real deal. I know we took him in the second round. But yeah, just going through the list, if you want to write them down, the guys that, the media kind of pumped up and people were super pumped about, and they just never really amounted to anything in Nashville. I'm not necessarily talking about a Kenny Britt or a Corey Davis. I'm talking about guys that were drafted later. And, just thinking about it again, Khalif Raymond probably tops the cake from what happened last season to us. I mean, and then to hear people get on us fans about being too optimistic of Khalif Raymond when you're the one that shoved him and said how great he was. Oh, JD says I can see AJ being frustrated if it doesn't get help. And that's the thing. Reynolds if he works out as a number 2, we know he'll be okay at 3. But in a perfect situation, which I don't know what the Titans have promised him. I mean, the guy's literally coming here for nothing. You think he's going to like $1 million and that's it. But ideally, you could have A.J. Brown, and then you would have Julio Jones, if this works out, as your 2. Reynolds is your 3. And then you can use sporadically Cam Batson like we did last year. You can throw in Des Fitzpatrick. Get him. There's nothing, like, what's wrong with bringing him in slowly? Like, you're just going to throw him out there and say, hey, dude, you're the 3 now all of a sudden. I mean, he had a really good year, I think, in 2017, and then his production kind of trickled down from there. But, again, like, it's a lot to throw some of these guys drafted in the 4th round and say, hey, yeah, you're our new number 3. Good luck. Get in there. Like, if it doesn't work out, we got a lot of problems on our hands. Because the other issue, which we haven't got into, and I've brought it up a few times, is, you know, are we sold on what we're going to be doing as tight end? The thing that's most concerning to me with tight end is if Firkser's on the field where he's lined up, does that give away if you're throwing or running? And I just don't want Derrick Henry to be in any situation where obviously they're going to pay a lot of attention to him no matter what. But I just don't want him in a situation where you're making it way too hard on him. Like, give him a little bit. Like, on a 3rd and 3, when they take him out and they bring in, McNichols, like, we're throwing the football. That's the frustrating part. C-Dub says Corey wasn't that productive. We loved him, though. I don't even know if he had more than 10 TDs as a Titan. I guess your argument is well taken, but your argument also has to be, well, okay, 10 TDs as a Titan. I wonder how many touchdowns. You guys can look that one up. I'm not sure how many touchdowns he had total. But Julio Jones, the rap on him is he doesn't really score a lot of red zone touchdowns either. So, but again, I'm looking for production. You can give me those yards. Derrick Henry, Ryan Tannehill, Firkser, those guys, I'm okay with punching it in for touchdowns. Firkser can get open inside the red zone. We've seen it before. But again, I'm talking the long drives, the 80-yard drives, those kind of things. I'm really interested in what they're going to do. I know they're going to play Swaim a lot. And who knows? Hudson, we went over these guys last year, undrafted free agents. Hudson only had like 100 and some yards receiving in Arizona State. I mean, he's a guy that was built on blocking. So I could see Hudson maybe making this team. And then a lot of you are very high on the Kansas State and Alabama tight ends that we got in the undrafted free agent class. And there's a reason, guys, why they're here. Like, there's a reason. Like, there's a reason why they didn't go to Kansas City or San Francisco, okay, or Atlanta. There's a reason why those guys who are somewhat decent, I know they didn't get drafted. That's why I can't say they're the sure thing. But these guys are decent. They had really good careers. There's a reason why they picked Nashville. I think they got a chance to make the team as a tight end. You don't usually come to Nashville to make the team if you got to play behind 2 stud tight ends that you're not having a chance to make. I guess that's my point. So for them showing up here and competing to make the team, I mean, they feel like they got a serious chance. He also caught 2-point conversion in a crucial situation against the Texans. Titan says teams wouldn't be able to double Julio, which it's a win-win for both those guys. Billy says Amendola and Golden Tate are still out there. Golden Tate is one that, don't be shocked, Billy, if he ends up in Nashville. It's just kind of like, I feel like he's the security blanket for the Titans. He would be a guy that could immediately come in and be a 2 or 3 or 4. Who knows? Tajay Sharp's out there. I mean, does that do anything for you guys? Would you bring back Tajay? Now, I will say this. With Tajay Sharp, you got to at least acknowledge, there's a reason why Jacksonville went with Tim Tebow, and they're selling his jersey now. So I'm not sure if it's a lock he's making the team, but there's apparently enough. He did way more than they thought he would do. And they were very impressed with his work. Now, maybe you will say, yeah, right, they're just after, selling tickets and merchandise and all that stuff. But, when you look at the Titans, again, I mean, Tajay Sharp would help the locker room as far as they like him. He was kind of a big piece in the locker room for our playoff run. Like, you can agree or disagree with that. But, I mean, he was the one in front, leading Derrick Henry to the stage after the win at Baltimore. I mean, he was the one having fun and doing his thing and making the locker room loose and those kind of things. So Tajay was a piece of that. Again, I know he got himself in a little bit of trouble when he got in that fight, but for the most part, coming from UMass, he can run decent routes. He's not going to be great against man coverage, but he was good at knowing where to go in the zone, and he was good on the sidelines, and he came up with some great catches. He was another one we fell in love with because the media made him seem like he was all world again when we started camp a few years ago. And then when we went to the practice scrimmage, when it was he really looked good. So I understand why the media was high on him. And then he just kind of faded off. So again, it's really difficult for me to get really behind a lot of these guys because we just don't know until the lights turn on in week 1. Remember Chris Jackson last year? We heard how great he was. You know what I mean? As far as the secondary, he did okay. I just think they didn't have anybody else. Random Sean says we should have signed Tebow. Kang says, how do we afford Julio? Again, it's going to come down to a restructure. Paul Kaharski says it should be no problem. The Titans could come up with $20 million in a blink of an eye. So Paul knows his stuff. I'm not saying to go subscribe to Paul's, go buy his site and all that stuff. And again, it's nothing against Paul. San Francisco. And that's why I got a little fired up early in the show. I do apologize. But for the clickbait comment, it's the Titans are 5 on the list. It's not out of the realm of possibility that it can't happen. They're not just going to throw them out there if they don't think it's a realistic fit. It is a fit. When you look at all the wide receivers, I think the Tennessee Titans are spending the least amount on wide receivers than any other team. The only reason why the Titans aren't probably higher on this list is you guys are saying because of the cap situation. Joseph Barnes says Ertz is also, again, I understand the injury concerns, but he would be another name I would be very excited about. But there is one cautious thing. Josh says, screw the media. There is one cautious thing I have, Joseph, and this is the only thing. And I wonder, you can leave a comment how you feel about this. DK Titan says fake news. The Colts were the one, Wentz, Frank Wright. All these guys were linked to Ertz and bringing him in from the Eagles. They know him better than anybody. And because the Colts haven't done that yet, that's the only thing that makes me a little bit nervous about that situation. It's the only thing. Otherwise, I got nothing. I definitely, Tyler Eifert's out there. He would be a name that I know he's been hurt a lot, but we went through him. I think with his size, he would definitely be a red zone target. And if you could bring him in for the cheap, I think Tyler Eifert gives you a dual threat. And you could leave him on the field on one side, and you could leave Ferkser on the other, and now you can have your dual tight end set. And I don't know if you're running or passing because Tyler Eifert's not a terrible blocker. And then you could match up Ferkser with guys in the secondary, smaller linebackers, and maybe, and Ferkser can do a decent job there. So that's the hope. But who knows? Max says we have no cap space to make a trade. Again, it would be a restructure. And from what Paul Kaharski says, it can happen pretty instantly. They do it with Ryan Tannehill, probably right off the bat, save themselves a big chunk of money. John Robinson would have to work a little bit of his magic to hopefully figure out something with Julio's contract and hopefully get the Falcons to maybe eat some of it. J-Dub Customs, Pro Football or PFT says never mentions the Titans. There's a lot of media outlets that won't. It's not a fun. It's a small market thing. They don't get the views and those kind of things. Fernando says, are we ready as a team to go all in with Julio on a Super Bowl run? That's a question. I like it because I think we have to answer that question. I think we have to answer the question is, what does this team look like? Where are their weaknesses? Wide receiver right now to me is a weakness. When we look at these teams though, Ravens, man, that's very tempting. Chiefs aren't even on the list. But the Patriots are the ones, when I saw this list, that I'm like, because every now and then the Patriots will just make a play for a stud wide receiver. Obviously Randy Moss comes to mind. And now my mind's went a little bit blank. But Randy Moss was one that they went all out for. The guy who kept getting Josh Gordon. Josh Gordon got in a lot of trouble. Who would have thought the Patriots would be the ones to take a chance? Antonio Brown. When you talk about he was getting in trouble, but I mean, when Josh Gordon plays and when Antonio Brown was on his game, these two were great receivers with production. Every now and then they just go after these guys. So will the Patriots, they spent a lot of money in free agency. I mean, they got Mac Jones now, but they were going to go roll with Cam Newton for a while. Raiders are always a wild card. Chargers definitely need something for their young quarterback. You'd think at receiver as well. Colts, and then Packers. Maybe they do something for Rodgers, and then Ravens. So, again, that's the latest line. But, again, 49ers taking the cake there, which the 49ers could definitely use Julio as well. Do the Falcons want to trade within the division, or not within the division, but within the conference? You guys mentioned that earlier. There's not, besides the Packers, there's not any other team. There's only 2 of the 8 from the NFC on there. Are there any good free agent? Again, Golden Tate probably comes up. I don't like it. I don't. You guys mentioned Amendola, not huge on that one. But there's CJ, what's going on to you, man? Good to see you. And Joseph's right. People thought Tannehill was damaged goods. You're definitely right about that. And don't get me started. That's partly why I have a YouTube channel. So if you're relatively new to the channel, for those people that are watching, that's partly, everyone's got the reasons to do it. Unfortunately, some reasons are some want to make money. Some want to rant, which is probably me. I'm more into ranting about situations that I'm usually ranting on the radio or, on my way home, talking to the radio. But now I at least get to talk to you guys. But you guys have we've been through this. The respect I have for all of you guys. You guys will come in here, give your 2 cents. A lot of you are just spot on. I mean, this team through and through. It's fun to open it up with other teams. Don't get me wrong. Like Adam, shout out to Adam. Sure, he's in the house he was a Packers fan, but he's going to watch the Titans this year. But there are a lot of great dudes from other teams, and I love their perspectives. But when we talk Titans, man, I mean, you guys know your stuff. Derek Mason says, Tyler. Jeff says, Titans offensive line with Derrick Henry, Tannehill can make a receiver look good. A.J. Brown on one side can catch the ball, granted a lot of fumbles. There's the play action element. Again, Jeff, you're going to know what I'm going to say here. The thing that I'm the most concerned about is what happened with the Baltimore Ravens. And I think a lot of us can overlook that and be okay with it because that our defense got better. But don't forget, our defense in that playoff game actually played pretty well. Outside of the one where they broke down and nobody wanted to tackle Lamar Jackson, he went like 50 yards on a 3rd and 7 or a 3rd and 8. Other than that play, the Titans defense played pretty good. And I was very impressed with them. They did plenty enough for us to win that game. The offense got up 10-0 and then basically took a dump. They couldn't run the ball. They couldn't throw the ball. Ryan Tannehill didn't want to run. If you go back and look at the opening play of the game, which if you watch the watch party, we're doing that again this year. Although a couple games we're not going to be able to do because I'll be going to a few games. But when we looked at the first play of the game, Tannehill rolls out, and there was just something off. It was like he wasn't running hard, and I don't know what it was, but we never seen him really run again. And we go back and we see the highlights of the Packers on Sunday Night Football, and Tannehill fakes to Henry. The camera goes with Henry. Tannehill goes down right up the middle of the field in the snow and scores a touchdown. We were seeing that play fake consistently all season long, and it worked every stinking time. We didn't see that play one time against the Ravens. There was so much stuff going on in that playoff game, and I can't even tell you what the heck was going on. But that's the only concern I have, that when they shut us down, Corey Davis was nowhere to be found. Jonnu Smith, Ferkser. They tried to jam it into Ferkser a lot. It wasn't Ferkser's fault, but again, he wasn't getting open. And then A.J. Brown, finally, he could do all he could do. So that's the only cautious thing I am with this offensive right now, that, some of these guys, Dez Fitzpatrick, Josh Reynolds, what are they going to do differently than what Corey could have done, or Batson, or some of these other guys that we had? So that's the only concern. Can't forget Trey McBride. Oh, Trey McBride. I forgot about him when I was going through the list. You're right, Trey McBride. Atlanta. Julio's getting traded every year. It's an annual thing. So okay. That's interesting. Hey, Rebel, thanks for stopping by. It would be interesting to get the take from the Falcons' point of view, but a lot of people are looking at the drafting of Pitts and already having enough wide receivers with Ridley that they feel comfortable with. And again, the Falcons have like no cap room. This would free them up a little bit. It would definitely be a salary cap dump, and maybe you get something out of it. Maybe then that's why everybody's leaving. But again, it hasn't happened yet, because they really can't happen because of the massive cap hit until after June 1st. So if it's going to happen, things are really going to start to pick up probably a week before then. Who knows? Maybe we'll have to do this again. Zach says, I wouldn't necessarily mind Tajay Sharp coming back you would have to know. Love Tajay's big trust. Tajay came up with some clutch catches too. And if you could tell me Tajay Sharp, and I'll go back to the list. Let's see, that's with the receivers. Oops. There we go, receivers. You tell me, honestly, Tajay Sharp better than A.J. Brown? No. Is Tajay Sharp better than Josh Reynolds? Probably not. Is Tajay Sharp better than Dez Fitzpatrick? Remember, Tajay was like the number one with the NCAA in catch receptions, I believe. He had a ton. He was drafted in the 5th round. Dez Fitzpatrick was drafted in the 4th round. So, as of right now, I don't think you can tell me that Dez Fitzpatrick is better than Tajay, and I probably can't tell you for sure Tajay's better than Dez. But it's pretty much, for right now, it's a draw for me. Now, when the season moves and he gets more experience with Dez, then yeah. Westbrook, Tajay's better. Chester Rogers, Tajay's probably better. Marcus Johnson, Tajay's better. Cody Hollister, Tajay's better. Mason Kinsey, I cannot comment on that. Racey McMath is only here for one thing, to see if they struck lightning in a bottle. If they feel like it's not going to work out, they're going to release him a lot sooner than people think. Fred Brown, apparently the media's already told you he's not making the team. And then Kalijah, I think, is probably going to be one of the first persons gone. I'm not sure what they seen, but they saw something. So shout out to the Titans. They know. But is he better than Tajay Sharp? No. So my point is, Tajay Sharp, if you take him, he's no worse. I don't think we compared him to Cam Batson. But regardless of the fact, we like Cam Batson. He's kind of grew on me a little bit. Tajay Sharp would be no worse than where Nick Westbrook is right now. I mean, so again, if you could get him for the cheap and that much, I think he does help out the locker room. He's close with Derek. He's close with some of these guys. He's been around. He knows the system. He knows what John Robinson wants to do. Does he fully know the Vrabel effect? Well, he did work with Vrabel for one season. The only reason why Tajay moved on, Titans weren't going to guarantee him a number 2 spot, nor should they have, because they had Corey Davis and A.J. Brown. The Vikings said they would. And, of course, as soon as he went to Minnesota, it's like, hey, we're looking for another receiver. It's like, oh, poor Tajay. He fell for it. And then eventually they released him. Kansas City picked him up for a little bit. I put him on the practice squad, and then they obviously released him this year. Jeremy says Corey had a total of 11 touchdowns in 4 years. Jones had 60 in 10 seasons. So if you do the math, that's 6 60, 60 and by 10. So what is that? A little over, man, my math's awful. Six touchdowns per season. So 6 times 4 is 24. And then Corey Davis was 11-4. But again, you also look at the situation here too. Atlanta probably threw the ball more. Atlanta, Matt Ryan, one quarterback with Julio Jones his entire. Corey had Marcus Mariota. He had Blaine Gabbert for a while. Marcus Mariota when he couldn't throw. Remember, he couldn't feel his arm for a while. So, you know, we do have to put those stats in there. We have to acknowledge that situation. You know what I mean? You got to acknowledge that. So, again, Titan says, Titan Upload, what's your record without Julio? What's our record with him? Good question. I like that. With him, I don't know yet, but without him, 11-6. I mean, looking at the schedule, probably around 11-6. Now, with Julio Jones and how productive he can be if he's healthy, I think that's a great question, Titan. It's like, how many wins is he worth? How many wins is he worth? Remember, the show is titled, Do We Need Him? Like, is he a must? And I've said he's up there. I mean, I'm not going to give you 100%, but I would say I'm around 70 to 80% that he's definitely strongly needs to be considered, because we really don't have a lot of other people to rely on if Reynolds or Fitzpatrick don't become what people really think they are going to become. There's no fallback plan here. You know, you're not just going to throw out Cody Hollister and put him at 3 and be like, all right, good job. We've seen Cody. I like Cody. But again, he is what he is. He's not going to just ball out all of a sudden now, this year. You know, Racey McMath. Again, the chances of him working out are not very high at this point, right? We drafted him late. But he's not going to be a guy that I think that you can look at and be like, all right, he's a for sure thing. I hope he works out. The Titans see something in him that, hey, you know, he's coming from LSU. You got all these other great wide receivers, you know, and maybe he didn't get a chance to show himself, you know. There's some hope there, but you realize why he was brought in, why they took a chance on him. They're trying to see what they can get. Like I said, lightning in a bottle. So with Julio Jones, I think you got to at least give yourself another win. So that would put you up at 12-5. Kind of maybe between, I'd probably say a win and a half, a win, 1.5 to 2 wins. He might turn out to be worth, honestly, because you just don't know. And here's the thing, Derrick Henry. So if I'm going to stuff the box, I'm going to go one-on-one all game with A.J. Brown and Julio Jones. And I'm going to be okay with that. Do we realize, what Julio Jones can do? Julio Jones can have a guy draped all over him and still jump up and catch the ball 30 yards down the field. So, again, I would be super pumped with this. I would give it my endorsement fully. Depends on what you're giving up, of course. This would be a legitimate game changer. I mean, if I gave you 2 wins, I mean, that's a big deal. You know, if you think you're going to win 10, 2 wins gets you to 12. I got 11, that's 13 wins. I mean, I think it's a really good question, by the way. Hunter, what's going on? Good to see you. JD says he's on the Tajay train. JDW Sports Talk Show. What's going on? So many teams can trade for Julio. The price may be too high. The only realistic reason why we're able to do this tonight is because it kind of came out that there hasn't been a lot of interest at this point, but you're exactly right. Chiefs, Ravens, Steelers, for crying out loud. Maybe this is their last ploy with Big Ben. Kenny Stills, I really thought heavily for that, and I thought maybe the Titans should have brought him in last year. But the more and more I looked up Kenny Stills, the more and more I'm just not very satisfied with that. But again, you throw Kenny Stills up against some of these guys, you probably find Kenny Stills somewhere on the roster, right? Does Paul know his stuff? He maybe knows too much sometimes. I do get on Paul because he likes to double dip a lot, and I don't like that. And he's a business guy. I get it. But he uses perks from obviously being in the media, and then he's able to use his own stuff on his own site. And then, he gets the memberships from there, which is fine. But, I mean, let's just say he's got multiple hands in different pots there. And he does it well, though. He does it well, so shout out to him. But when he was working at the Zone, starting to see like Buck Rising and some of these guys do it now. They've got a relationship with the Zone. You got A to Z working with the Zone. They're doing night recaps and all that other great stuff. I mean, that's awesome. But like I said, if Buck Rising started to make his own site now and charge you guys for that, that's kind of what I was getting at. And Buck doesn't do that, thankfully. Upload really on fire tonight. 10 dislikes. Yeah, that's pretty confident. I'm pretty confident where they're coming from, and we'll be able to see tomorrow. If there's 10 dislikes tomorrow, then I'm totally wrong. But if it goes down to like 4, like I said, it's the same guy coming in here, giving dislikes. But I'm excited because I'm getting the views. So keep stopping by and seeing what we're up to. That's all I can say. Jay, why did we have to pass on Mike Thomas? Stephon Diggs had an opportunity there. Jason says we don't necessarily need Julio. We absolutely need a capable receiver opposite of AJ. And I like that comment. I do. I don't know if Reynolds is the guy. I mean, I'm totally cool with Reynolds being the 3. I just feel way more comfortable with that right now. But like I said, some of you are like, you're all in right now. You are all in on Reynolds. You are all in on Fitzpatrick. And again, I can't say you're wrong. Now, when the season starts and we're on week 5, I mean, we'll probably be able to have more of a discussion and see who's going in the right direction. And again, I'm not hating on these guys. I hope they work out. I mean, if these two work out, the Titans have won the lottery. They've spent the least amount on wide receivers, and they're getting a lot of production. You guys already know how high I am on Mason Kinsey. I really think he's got a real shot here. Now, if they keep 6, I think Mason really will have a shot. Now, if Julio comes in, then all bets are off. That is totally going to change things. Rebel says, can't say I didn't tell you so. He ain't going nowhere. Can't trust the random rumors. Briley Moore is a stud from K-State. Again, hopefully that will work out. Can't wait to do those undrafted free agent videos for you guys. That's when we really get to learn a lot about some of these guys that don't get a lot of attention. Now, we've reached out, just to throw it out there to you. I feel like there's a block on getting guys. Now, I will tell you this. Bring the Juice podcast is bringing on their 2nd draft pick that the Colts drafted on their show. So shout out to them. I've been trying. I've been reaching out to all these guys. I can't get the time of day right now. And I don't know. It's Bring the Juice. We were relatively close in subscribers. You guys know this is a family-friendly channel. It's not like we're on here, pounding our chest and cussing up a storm and making people feel uncomfortable. We just love talking football. We have some really good discussions. We respect one another. It'd be awesome to have some of these guys on. Now, thankfully, Mason Kinsey came on last year. You would think that, hey, that would solidify it to where you at least give it some thought. But then some of these guys are going out and then they're showing up on some of these other shows. Like a few of them are on Broadway Sports and stuff like that, and that's fine. But again, it is interesting that, maybe Vrabel will not let them go on the YouTube market. Who knows? Run Up says Titans bounce back AFC Championship this upcoming season. Sauce getting fire up over here. If anything, it's a rumor. Kenny Stills, you guys are saying. I think we had a super chat, by the way. Maybe we didn't. Maybe we did. We did. Noah, the best receiver, Julio, has played with Sanu. And they went to a Super Bowl. AJ is better than Sanu. Sanu. And then, any news on Pickney? As far as Pickney goes, I think he's still, Paul mentioned him. So, he's still around as a possibility. We could get into the tight ends one night and kind of list all the tight ends. I believe he's from Vanderbilt, if I'm not mistaken. So you guys probably know way more about those of you that like Vanderbilt. But Sanu that's an interesting point because, like, Sanu was okay. I think, Julio made him better. But when you're talking about what Julio was able to accomplish, having Derrick Henry, Ryan Tannehill, that's a good debate. Ryan Tannehill or Matt Ryan. I think they're both very good quarterbacks. But, A.J. Brown, Ridley's good too. But, A.J. Brown and Derrick Henry, and we know Derrick Henry, we'll just go ahead and throw this up there. Derrick's all in. We know A.J. Brown was all in, even when he was trying to pump up Elijah Moore. He was also commenting on Julio saying, hey, you can have my number. But real quick, just to throw it out there, I did want to post this. So shout out to the cheerleaders. So the cheerleaders just announced who made the team, or the Titans announced who made the team. So shout out to all the cheerleaders. We should do a show where we bring in all the cheerleaders and, we talk football and see what these, what do they do? Like, you know what I mean? I know that they don't get paid an awful lot to cheer, which is a shame, but what are these people about, and get to meet some of these people. So again, it's a really, the Titans try to make it a really fun experience. I remember the time where T-Rack literally ate one of the cheerleaders. You guys remember that one? It was very bizarre. It was one of those really she was there and she's gone. It was, like I said, very, very insane right there. So that was cheerleaders. And then this thing came out, Derrick Henry. So you see Pro Football Talk. You guys were talking about it earlier. But Derrick Henry wants the Titans to trade for Julio Jones. Now we've seen Derrick Henry come out and basically endorse this. There was some speculation that if Derrick Henry deleted the tweet, then maybe he shouldn't have said something and he felt bad about it. Maybe, just for the fact that maybe he knew something and maybe the Titans didn't want him to throw it out there, but I don't buy any of that. So Noah, again, thanks for the super chat. I'm not buying any of that. I just think that they respect Julio. They like Julio. They think Julio can do some things. I don't think it's a disrespect on anybody on the wide receiver front that's on the roster that King Henry speaks. And notice we got the king back here, the crown. I should buy a bunch of those and give them out as gifts, but honestly, they're not that expensive, like $3 or $4. Or they're cool LED lights. They're cool, but yeah, whatever. I was trying to get the blue ones, but it's the only color they make. But anyways, King Henry with the endorsement. We've seen A.J. Brown, so we know if Julio comes, the Titans will find a way. They will rally behind him, and I think it'll be good. Now, this is concerning for me, Robert. I get your point. Trade for Odell Beckham, but, he's a talent, but the Browns seem to do better without him. So he actually is the only one that's giving me hope that the Browns might take a step back to start the year because the roster of the Browns looks insane. Paul Gaharski needs to cover another team. He makes me want to root for the Cardinals more, even though I'm an Oiler Titan lifelong fan. You have to take Paul with a grain of salt. Michael, our buddy from Fan to Fan Network, this guy, Michael, shout out again to Michael Rossi. But he had a long conversation with Paul the other day on social media. And you know what? Michael's a respectful guy, and he gave his opinion. He didn't agree with Paul, but at least Paul was respectfully disagreeing with him, and then, it ended pretty good. So, again, you got to know how to talk to Paul. If you kind of fire at him, I think sometimes he gets fired up. He can get fired up too. Him and Vrabel are not a good relationship. We know this. But at the end of the day, Paul's job is to break news when he can. And sometimes we don't like the news that he breaks. And sometimes we don't like how he responds to people on social media and stuff like that. But, I did not agree with what he said about Tajay Sharp. I will say that. Hey, Dat Kid 22, thanks for stopping by. And I cannot wait for this Madden news to go official, right? It's taken forever. I know. They threw a bunch of generic stats against him, Alex. And the day the game came out, we checked that out. And they obviously have no clue about him. But Mason, I think, ran almost like a 4.37, 4.36, 4.38, kind of in that realm. Titans do their best. There's no expectations. I get it. Mason is a good shot in the slot versus Batson. I think it's going to be close. And again, I think Batson's going to make the team. I think Vrabel loves Batson, and I think Batson came up clutch in a few spots last year. People need to chill out about Kenny Stills, but there's just too much there, and I don't want to share it all, but just too much there with Mason that, he's sitting there. Mason and Rashard Davis had a tryout last year at the end of the season, and Mason didn't win the tryout. They went with Davis. Davis joins the practice squad. Kinsey doesn't get hired. But I can't tell you anything more on that situation, although I know a little bit more, but I can't tell you. So respectful, I'm not going to say. But here's the thing. At the end of the season, when they started calling players to bring them in for a future contract, who did they call? Mason Kinsey. So we know there were other teams that wanted Mason. I don't know if they want this out there, so I won't say the couple teams that were interested. Both of them were in the AFC. But again, and that's not including the Patriots. So we already knew the Patriots were, they gave him a couple chances. They brought him in right after the Titans released him, put him on the practice squad, and then halfway through the year, they released him. They brought him back on the practice squad, and then they ended up releasing him again, and I think it was just kind of on a hold thing. But I think they see something in this kid, and is it going to be enough is the question. And I don't have an answer. I don't think anybody has the answer for that, because again, if McMath takes off and he is the lightning in the bottle there, then they do trade for Julio Jones, or they sign a Golden Tate, or they bring somebody else in. I think that's really gonna diminish any of these guys' chances of making the team. The guy from Alabama, the guy, Briley from Kansas State. So hopefully things will work out there. But that would be my one that would be a little bit more suspect for. And then you guys talked about more from Sportsline, and that's where we are, plus 900. And SSJ Titan says already put money on the plus 900 odds to get Julio Jones. Good night, Robert. Thanks for being here. Rossi's in the house. There he is. What's going on, Rossi? Good to see you. We were talking earlier about you and PK. So thanks for being here, man. But yeah, Titans 5th. That's why we had a video today. James says they probably had Gurley whenever he had those numbers. They just ran it in. Again, T-Town Brown says, keep in mind we won't be passing as much. One thing that's for sure, defenses would have some serious issues covering. I could even argue this. The Titans could be more unpredictable, and I'll throw it out there real quick before we get off. The Ravens game. Like, the Ravens knew we were going to run the football. The Ravens knew that we live off play action, and they were ready for it. I give them tons of credit for it. I hate what they did, at the end of the game. I hate how Lamar ran off the field without shaking anyone's hands in his first playoff game, and he's got to live with that for the rest of his life. So, down the line when he's older and he's telling his kids and his grandkids about his first playoff win, he could be like, yeah, I ran off the field, I didn't shake anybody's hand. But my point is, when we look at that situation, the Titans could easily have won that game and said, you know what? And this is what the Patriots always did so well too. And the Chiefs have done it this past year when they went into Buffalo and everyone expected them to pass the ball, and they ran it like 40 times. The Titans could go in there and throw it all over the yard. And I know that's like, wait, what are you talking about, Upload? It's just being more versatile. Isn't that what this team wants to be? Doesn't that what Vrabel preaches consistently? The versatility to be able to do multiple things and multiple schemes at multiple times? Julio Jones would give it healthy. Julio Jones gives you a chance to do that. Yeah, the Colts, they're right behind the Titans. I mean, it's kind of real close there. Plus 912. I did not see Wentz. I'm just telling you, everything kind of revolves around Wentz. I think defensively, you guys are really good defensively. I'm not even going to question that. I do. I think the Colts have a really, really, really good defense. Suspect a little bit last year. I thought maybe it was who you were playing early on, but no, you guys proved me wrong on that. You guys were good all season with your defense. But again, it comes down to Wentz. I mean, we all know that. If Wentz is good, the Colts will make the playoffs. If Wentz is bad or not very good, then you're going to have to rely on the running game, and I don't see any. But see, if you guys went out and got a guy like Julio, I mean, that changes things. So, but yeah, a lot of it comes down to Wentz, but I did not see him. Hey, Keisha, hey, no worries. Says, sorry I missed the stream. My oldest graduated high school. Congratulations. Man, graduations are happening, right? I mean, who would have thought a year ago, all that stuff, finally moving, hopefully, in the right direction with that, but congratulations. All right, guys, I think I'm officially done. Do we need him? Again, the camp report, really quick. We kind of talked about it briefly, but I don't have a ton of stuff on this. We do know that the Titans, right? You know, they did give Kalijah, the guy from Vanderbilt, an offer, and then they ended up cutting Rashard Davis from the results of the rookie minicamp. The offensive line, Keith Carter had 6 players to work with, so he obviously had a lot of work to do. We did talk briefly about how, Weaver showed up, and we're hoping everything will work out with Weaver. They got him in like at number 3 on the depth chart. I mean, you got Landry, you have Bud Dupree 1, Landry 2, and then it kind of falls on Weaver. And then you're going to bring in guys like Wyatt Ray and stuff. I think that's an issue too. Kelly, what's going on? Good to see you. Thanks, Tennessee Titans Logic. I appreciate it, man. Much respect to you, buddy. But yeah, that's kind of the breakdown with camp. The tight ends were an interesting thing. Nobody, I don't think, stood out. Mason Kinsey was invited. I thought that was a cool story that J-Rob did offer him a chance to come in because he was not able to do it last year. So, he's given Mason every chance possible to make this football team. I love it. Racey McMath, I mean, he is what he is. He shows burst. He shows some things that he can do. Again, it's a lightning in a bottle type situation. But I thought this camp predominantly, Redunds, I heard look good. Weaver, whatever. Some of these guys. Dez, I heard, did look okay. I mean, he caught the ball very well. I heard he needs to improve on his footwork, but that's kind of expected when it comes to rookie wide receivers. Just hope he stays healthy. But again, you're not going to learn a ton at rookie minicamp. But it was good to see, the guys come out. I don't think the guy from Memphis made the team, the quarterback. I know he got a tryout situation. I only really saw one pass from him in the highlight clips. A lot of it was based off Dez. They put a lot of film out there on him. And again, he didn't look bad at all. But I thought Mason Kinsey was right behind him in the drills, and I thought Mason looked just as good, just as quick. And if you don't believe me, go look at they have it out. I mean, you can see it. Just don't go look at the Dez highlights. I mean, look at the actual where they actually run through all the receivers, and then they get to the Kalijah guy, and he drops it back-to-back times. But, yeah, this was an interesting show. So thanks again for being here. Don't forget to tighten up that like button on your way out. We're out of here. Look for some releases to come out recently in the next few days, so to speak. Got one I'm working on with why I think Mason Kinsey might make this team. Put together my little bit there, and then diving into wide receivers again, diving into tight ends, schedule predictions, and anything obviously that breaks coming forward. Super Bowl, I can't wait to do that one. The Super Bowl odds at this point. Where does Vegas think? Who's going to win the Super Bowl? Those kind of things. So super pumped. Yes, we had 12 dislikes. We'll see what that number's like in the morning. Like I said, if it's at 6, if it's at 4, if it's at 3, it's because one person came in here with multiple accounts, and it is what it is. No worries. So where can you see the footage? Paul Kaharski, you could look at him. He puts out a lot of stuff. Trying to think of some of the other guys. You might see like I can't think of his name. The guy who runs Music City Miracles, he might put it out there. I want to say like 4.38 maybe. 4.38. Yeah, my voice is going. My voice is going, man. Good night, football fan. But I'll be back Sunday. So we'll do Tighten Upload live Sunday night. Maybe I'll try to bring some of my buddies on and talk about this. It's always fun to hear their points. But you guys were great. Thanks again for everyone who super chatted. So we had Chad. Let's put these on the screen one more time. Chad, Noah, and Noah one more time. So I do appreciate that. I did have, which I don't know if I can find it on the spot. Oh, man. Because I took a screenshot of it. But where it is anyone's guess. Is this it? Perfect. So Ty Sloan super chatted the other day. And he put, I think we'll do good, win over 10 games. And I totally missed it. So Ty wanted to give you a shout out, buddy, and tell you, I'm sorry I missed your super chat the other day. I hate when that happens, but I do apologize. All right, guys, you're awesome. Tighten up. Hopefully we win over 6,900 tonight. We're moving towards 7,000. I know I've been saying that for a while. It's been awfully slow, but you guys have always been great. So thanks a lot for your support, and we'll talk to you soon. And who knows? Do you want Julio Jones? Is he a must? I'm going to go ahead and say it. I think he is. I think the Titans got to get it done and find a way to get it done and bring him in, because it's one less hole, and it might just put us over the top. Take care and tighten up.